Better Call Saul, the spin-off of a little show called Breaking Bad. You might have heard of it. For the record, I've technically seen this before, like 2 episodes, like 4 years ago. So basically, I didn't watch it. Anyway, this show follows our greaseball Jimmy McGill, part-time lawyer and part dickhead. He's hustling in the legal world while also being a criminal at the same time. Before we start, here's the usual with this channel. I go episode by episode, breaking things down, giving my thoughts, and hating when needed. Then, at the end, I'll give my final opinion. Also, spoilers ahead for season 1, by the way. We go into this show in black and white, seeing our main man Jimmy working at Cinnabon, which I'm pretty sure is because of the events at the end of Breaking Bad, but I don't know, I could be wrong. I finished that show like 5 years ago. Then Jimmy goes home and sits in his special hiding place and grabs a VHS.
Do you feel doomed? Have opponents of freedom wrongly intimidated you? Maybe they told you that you're in serious trouble and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm Saul Goodman, and I'm here to tell you that they're wrong.
He does this for a while. However, now we go to court with Jimmy from 6 years before Breaking Bad started. He's defending a few 19-year-olds. What did they do, you might ask yourself? Well, they cut off the head of a caviar body, and then one of them gives themselves head with the dead guy's head. So yeah, Jimmy didn't win this case, and those kids are going to hell. He meets with another client, Greg and Betsy. The husband is a county treasurer, and they are being accused of stealing public funds, about 1.5 million worth of funds. As soon as the guy was gonna sign the paper Jimmy would have had to be his lawyer, the wife cop blocks him and demands that they think it over about, hiring him. Now he's driving on the calm, cool road.
Well, no, it's paid up. Run it again.
What the hell? So these two skaters are trying to scam Jimmy by doing the classic running in front of a moving vehicle trick. Jimmy catches on to this and demands money to pay for his windshield, but they run away. Jimmy goes to a salon parlor, which is where his office is, and he kind of sleeps there sometimes. He goes through his mail, and it reminds me a lot of like Peter Parker opening his mail. Just a bunch of bills on top of bills and being poor. Jimmy's at a law firm and he confronts them about a paycheck he got that was made out to Chuck, Jimmy's brother, which Jimmy says is too low for him. For some background information, because I was also confused, Chuck is a partner at the firm, Hamlin and McGill, and hasn't been to work in like a year. Jimmy leaves and does that. He finally goes home and it's very dark. He lives with Chuck, and Chuck has EHS, so he doesn't love being around technology, so their house is like being in the 1900s. Jimmy tells his brother that he's to cash out, but Chuck doesn't want to because he doesn't want to leave his company and his clients behind. The next day, Jimmy has the bright idea of trying to work with those two skaters who tried to scam him. He wants to work with them to do what they tried to do to him, but to someone else and better. Jimmy gives them a lesson on doing it right, finding the right victim, and having better timing as well. Jimmy tells him about Betsy, that lady from earlier who was so annoying. He's using the twins to try to get her and her husband to have him as their lawyer. The twins did the thing and got hit by the car, but they got hit by the wrong vehicle and that person took off. The skaters found the lady who hit them. It was an elderly lady. She doesn't even speak a lick of English though. Jimmy also comes to the house where the skaters are at, and then the episode ends. Solid first episode. Like I said before, this is a prequel to Breaking Bad, so there is going to be a lot of references and stuff, which I will probably point out if I understand them. Anyway, I'm excited to see Jimmy's origin. I don't remember much, but I know what kind of character he is, but that might change over time and he might become a better person. I'm curious about the old lady as well, and how is she going to handle these skaters who kind of suck as people. I also feel bad for her because she kind of just did an accidental hit and run. Anyway, I'm excited to see more and all that. I mean, this episode was kind of slow, but it's a pilot episode, makes sense. So that's it. The skaters are now in the house of the lady who hit them, and it turns out to be Tuco's grandmother. I probably don't need to say this since you guys probably already know who Tuco is, but that is the worst luck possible because he is part of the cartel. And he's insane. That is also a bad thing. I wouldn't be surprised if he shot them right then and there. Anyway, they threatened to call the cops on Tuco.
Let's talk dollar amounts for what you did. No.
Yeah, not surprised. Jimmy shows up at Tuco's too. He isn't happy about that, so he pulls a gun on Jimmy. Jimmy goes with his usual tactic of talking himself out of a situation. Then Tuco brings Jimmy to the twins, and the two douchebags blame everything on Jimmy. Then Jimmy gets taken to the middle of the desert. He explains that they got the wrong car on accident and they were trying to scam the lady they were looking for. The goons don't listen when he's telling the truth, so Jimmy just keeps lying and lying, like being an FBI agent named Agent Steele, which sounds very similar to a show I know. Nacho questions Jimmy about being in the FBI. Wait, Nacho? That feels a tad weird to say. I'm gonna call him Scorpion, since he's played Scorpion in the Spider-Man movie. Anyway, Scorpion doesn't buy the agent's story and makes Jimmy confess that he is who he says he is. Tuco decides to let Jimmy go, but he really wants to kill the twins. Jimmy steps in so they don't die. Tuco is so annoying throughout this entire situation, constantly saying they're gonna rip their throats out. Eventually, they settle on breaking one leg each.
Check it out! I'm gonna do this one real clean!
Damn. Jimmy is now on a date, but he's staring at the lady's boobs the entire time. Also, everything he looks at reminds him of what he just experienced like yesterday. So, it's not very enjoyable. When he gets home, he passes out immediately, leaving his phone in his pocket, so his brother has to go on a suicide mission to toss it out. Jimmy is getting new cases now. We get a little montage of him losing over and over again. Also, I forgot to mention, Mike from Breaking Bad is in this. He's one of those dudes who checks you in at like a parking garage type place. I have no idea how he's going to become the killer he was in Breaking Bad though, so we'll find that out. We see Jimmy at his makeshift office, and guess who walks through the door? Scorpion. He visits Jimmy because he wants to know where the couple who stole over $1 million are, because he wants to steal from them. Scorpion leaves his number just in case Jimmy wants to work with him. Great episode. I forgot Tuco was even in this, and also forgot how completely crazy he is. It's the same feeling as like when you see Homelander on screen. He might do anything at any second. I like how they also introduce Nacho or Scorpion or whatever as well. He seems like a rock type that keeps Tuco from going even deeper than he already is, because, you know, he wants to do anything that's crazy. I don't really like the filter they use. Every show, I swear, this show, Breaking Bad, Ozark, they put like a yellow filter over when they're in Mexico. I find it very dumb since it doesn't look like that in real life, but I understand why, but still. That said, I do kind of like this show more than Breaking Bad. Maybe because I like Jimmy more as a character. I didn't relate to the family dynamic in Breaking Bad. I never related to Walter or whatever because I never experienced, you know, like childbirth or anything. So, I don't know. Anyhow, a good episode and all that. Jimmy is sad and drinking at the salon. Then he calls the one lawyer, Kim, from the law firm. She hangs up and Jimmy does whatever this is. He uses the paper towel roll to make a makeshift voice changer thingy and calls the money couple that stole the $1 million thing. He tries to warn them since Scorpion is very interested in stealing from them. Kim calls Jimmy over to a crime scene, which happens to be the couple I was talking about earlier's house. They have a nice little chat about the couple and how they are gone with no trace. Then they kicked Jimmy out for being too cool. Jimmy called Scorpion on one of those like payphone things like multiple times to try to talk to him. He called back, then hung up. Then a few minutes later, a few guys showed up and started chasing Jimmy down. However, they were cops. It turned out Scorpion wanted Jimmy as his lawyer. They suspected of doing something to the money couple. Nevertheless, he said he didn't do anything. He was planning on robbing them, but he was only planning on doing it. He didn't act on it yet. He did stalk them a little bit though. The police don't buy that he's innocent because, you know, he's part of the cartel. So Kim, the lawyer, who is also there, suggests that they go to the house and look for clues. Jimmy, who is basically just Sherlock in this scene, says that the family faked their own kidnapping since he sees that the daughter's doll is missing, which makes sense. The next day, or the same day, I don't really know, Mike, the ticket guy, did some Steven Seagal wrist lock thing on Jimmy since he was being aggressive.
To that, huh, geezer?
They end up at the police station and accuse Jimmy of assault, but they'll drop it if he admits his client is guilty. However, Mike drops the assault charge since he has to make his pimento cheese sandwich. He also believes that the family kidnapped themselves. We also learn that Mike was a police officer in Philly, so that explains a lot. He drops some police knowledge that leads Jimmy to find the family at the campsite. Great episode. I'm actually really interested in Mike's relationship with Jimmy, how it's gonna change. Also, when is he gonna change his name to Saul Goodman? I thought it was gonna happen like the second episode or so, but no, 4 episodes in and no change at all. Not complaining since they're taking their time with it and all. Every time I see Jimmy getting bullied and stuff, it reminds me of the movie Nobody, since that character is supposed to be the cool, tough guy. But man, Jimmy is so weak. You know, like those power scaling chart things? He's like the lowest of low. Anyway, good episode. I want to see how they introduce the characters from Breaking Bad into this, like Gus or Jesse or something. I don't know if Jesse's even involved. He might just do crack in a corner or something. I don't know. Jimmy talks with the Money family, trying to convince them to turn themselves in. The wife is so annoying. She's like, my husband's going to jail. I'm not giving the money back. They try to bribe Jimmy not to tell on them, but it doesn't work. The next day, Scorpion is let go by the police. He has a little talk with Jimmy, knowing that he ratted on him.
Whoever somebody is who may have warned the Kettlemans got them out of there before you did anything even more stupid, you should be thanking this good Samaritan, because whoever he is, he did you a favor.
This is what the kids call aura farming. A few days later, Kim visits Jimmy at the salon place. He gets a cease and desist letter because he basically photoshopped himself as the boss dude on the billboard he owns. He laughs it off, so Jimmy leaves since they got a little uncomfy. Then we go to Jimmy and Hamlin talking to a judge about the billboard thing. Jimmy lost immediately because he blatantly copied him. Jimmy gets a few college students to record his billboard getting taken down.
If they want to fight, they're gonna get a fight, because I'm not giving up. Holy shit, dude! The dude!
Jimmy decides to be a hero and save the dude who's about to fall. But it turns out that guy was paid by Jimmy to do that. So, you know, cool. Another banger, but it felt like nothing happened at the same time. That couple was also so annoying. The wife is, hate her. She's the worst. I get the whole protect your family thing, but she was just so annoying about it. It's just like, calm down, lady. Jimmy's character is kind of reverting in a way as well. Since I don't have a lot of time talking about everything in this episode or whatever, I didn't mention that Jimmy used to be even more scum than he is now. He used to scam a lot of people, and now he's slowly doing that again. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that over the course of the series, he will get more and more unethical in his methods. So it's reverse Thorfinn, or you could say he's doing an Eren Yeager in that sense. Yeah. So in the last episode, Jimmy's brother stole their neighbor's newspaper. I didn't mention it because I thought it wasn't going to be important. But the police showed up to his house, and they go into his house and he gets flashbanged with light. Jimmy meets with some weird rich dude named Ricky. He has so many stuffed animal corpses. It's crazy. He's like Craven the Hunter, but like fat and country. He offers 1 million of basically monopoly money that he genuinely believes has actual value for his legal services. But Jimmy declines that. And Jimmy meets with another maybe client. The client designed a toilet that would help kids be potty trained.
Yeah, that's the way. Gosh, you're big. You're so big.
The guy gets mad at Jimmy when he says that the toilet's weird. I have no idea how you don't hear that sort of thing. Anyway, we visit another client, a very slow old lady. She's doing her will, and Jimmy is helping her out. Nothing went wrong, so that was it. We cut to Jimmy painting Kim's toenails at the salon. It was kind of gross. I kind of couldn't script while looking at this. Then he finds out his brother Chuck is at the hospital. He tells the doctor that his brother is allergic to electricity. She suggests for him to get psychological help, which, you know, that makes sense. Chuck talks about his condition and about how he's not crazy. He is. Jimmy takes him home. He talks to Chuck about he's thinking about specializing in elderly law, since old people deal with a lot of things. This episode was fun, with Jimmy dealing with weird clients and stuff. I do feel bad for Jimmy since he has to deal with Chuck's not really real medical problem. That must be kind of frustrating to deal with, you know. It's just, I don't know, sucks. Also, being a lawyer must suck, dude. Unless, like, I'm making bank. These type of jobs would make me want to drive off into a lake. Bars, by the way, that was kind of clean. The weird toilet guy was also funny, but man, dealing with people like that, that would suck. In this episode, we meet with Mike, the ticket guy, at the train station putting a maxi pad over his wound. Then we cut to Mike playing with his granddaughter. Mike talks to his daughter-in-law about her dead husband Matt, who's, you know, Mike's son, saying that he seemed different before he died. Now we're meeting with him at the police station because the cops showed up at his house and detained him. Yeah, I don't really know why. Jimmy is his lawyer, and Mike wants him to throw coffee on one of the police officers, so he destroys like their notebook thing. They all talk now. Those cops are from Philly, and Matt used to work with them. They say that Matt and 2 officers were ambushed. Then they say that those 2 officers could have been into something. Later, those 2 cops turned up dead. At the end of the conversation, Jimmy did the whole coffee spill, oh no, thing on one of the officers. We were revealed that those 2 cops were the ones who killed Matt. After that happened, Mike killed the 2 corrupt police officers.
You bust a drug dealer has more cash than you'll ever earn in a lifetime. Some of it doesn't make it back into evidence. So what? You took a taste, so did everyone else. That's how you knew you were safe. It's like killing Caesar. Everyone's guilty.
Okay, Mike explains what happened to his daughter-in-law, including that Matt wasn't corrupt, so those 2 cops killed him out of fear, being ratted out. This was my favorite episode by far, probably because Mike is the GOAT. I think everyone loves this type of character, a genuinely bad person trying to be better while also knowing how to protect someone. It's the same reason why like Vagabond and Vinland Saga are so popular. People love a tragic character who becomes better with time. In Mike's case, I'm pretty sure he doesn't become a peaceful type of man, but he's still fun to watch, so you know, looking forward to see how he starts working with Jimmy and how he justifies his actions. Jimmy and Mike are at the police station again. The notebook they soaked wasn't destroyed, and Jimmy gives it back to the annoying officer from earlier. Mike tells Jimmy to shoo and go away, and the other cop, who is actually really chill, talks to Mike. They knew each other from the force, and this cool cop knows what Mike did and is fine with it. They were bad people, so they both could not care less. Mike talks to Jimmy. He doesn't need him anymore since he's probably fine now legally. Jimmy shows Kim his new gigantic office that he bought since the old people clients are paying him really well. He offers her the opportunity to be his partner at his own law firm. She answers with a very soft no. Remember that money couple from earlier? Well, Kim was their lawyer, but the only deal she could get them was for her husband to spend around a year and a half in jail. The other option was 30 years, but because the wife is so annoying and the absolute worst, she fires Kim as their lawyer. Take a wild guess who they want to hire as the new lawyer. That's right, our boy Jimmy. Okay, so they hired him, but Jimmy didn't want to do it, but they, you know, blackmailed him since they kind of gave him some of the money they stole from before. So he had Mike do him a favor of breaking into their house and stealing back the money they were hiding. Jimmy puts back the money he had from them. Then the next day, he gets a visit from them to tell them that he gave the money to the DA. He becomes a Chad, demanding them to go back to Kim to have her as a new lawyer again. Solid episode. Thank God that wife gets to shut up, bruh. She was so annoying. I hated her so much. She said no to 1.5 years in prison for her husband and had the nerve to say they didn't have the money. She kept saying over and over, we don't have it, while a bag of $1 million is sitting right in front of them. Then when it gets stolen, she acts like Jimmy was a horrible person for taking the money they stole. Anyway, I like this episode. Also, I can see the use of Mike now. He's definitely gonna be put on the payroll soon. Anyway, that's it. Jimmy has another elderly client who's getting her will, wrote out or whatever. She couldn't pay Jimmy in full. Then he figures out that retirement home is overcharging the elderly. But the retirement home figures out that he found out, so they, kind of kick him out and don't let him in. That night, he sneaks into the garage and tries to find the files they tried to shred to get rid of the evidence. He gets a call from the lawyers of the retirement home threatening him that he has no legal bias to go on. He then finds the shredded files and goes through them. Chuck helps Jimmy out and does almost all the work while Jimmy was asleep. Kim also helps out by warning him that the boss might, steal the case away from Jimmy once it gets big. Jimmy gets a visit from the retirement company's lawyers, and they talk about the documents claiming that the elderly people are happy and healthy, but say that they will give them $100,000 to drop the charges. Jimmy and Chuck disagree on this, so they will take this to court. We end the episode with Chuck touching grass without feeling pain. So, you guys don't relate to that. Great episode. I was a little confused at times because all the legal talk that was happening. I'm not the smartest person ever, so I had to use a little chat GPT. Anyway, I like Jimmy in this episode. He knew something wrong was going on and he took action against it. Him defending old people is a nice change from him being a not so great guy. I felt like something was off with the lady at the front desk, so that made sense that she's a bad person. Hopefully in the next episode she will go to jail. Also, I hope Chuck isn't gonna pass out or something outside. That's probably the longest he's been outside, honestly. Jimmy and Chuck are now sitting on a bench. He seems mostly fine now. They decide to head inside and focus on work. Jimmy is now in court debating with the other lawyer dude about the overcharging old people case. When he comes home, Chuck tells him that they should give the case to the other law firm. Jimmy argues with him until, Chuck out-alphaed him. Mike also has a new job. He's trying to help his daughter-in-law with some money stuff, so he's taking on semi-suspect jobs. This is pretty much just GTA 5, and the job is a protection job, so it's like an actual GTA 5 mission. Mike is the coolest guy around and scares one guy after hitting the Trevor-looking dude in the throat.
You got it. What the son of a...
Jimmy and Chuck leave the house and they go over to HH&M. The boss is respectful and collects everyone's phones or whatever, so Chuck isn't seizing out and all that. Chuck is met with an applause and a hug by the boss man, which I thought was a surprise. I thought they didn't like him that much, but I guess they do. They give the case to them and Jimmy is getting $20,000 for the work he has already done. What sucks though is that the boss man still doesn't want Jimmy as a lawyer for the firm because Jimmy has always wanted that for years.
Go to hell, Howard. I'm not giving you my case. And I'm gonna tell every one of those clients what a lying, miserable pig fucker you are.
Mike is doing the protection thing. It's a drug deal actually, and it's involving Scorpion, so that's fun. They are missing $20, so Mike says that it's no deal. Scorpion gives in and hands them the missing $20. He's so cool. Jimmy talks with Chuck and decides to take the deal. And Jimmy reveals that Chuck talked to the boss man to not take him as a lawyer.
I worked my ass off to get where I am. And you take these shortcuts and you think suddenly you're my peer?
Damn. Jimmy decides he's done with his brother and dips out of there. Dang, that's crazy. Firstly, Mike is so cool, bro. The way he scares those other dudes is sick to see. He makes people feel at ease since he's older, but then he has experience and all that. Chuck betraying Jimmy wasn't the most surprising thing. I kind of figured that was the case, but still heartbreaking for Jimmy. Imagine taking care of your brother, doing everything you can for him with the fake disease and all that, and all this time trying to find work, and you find out that you couldn't get a job at his law firm is because of him. I understand it a bit though. Your younger brother, who was kinda and still is a degenerate, is becoming a lawyer and wants to work at your firm. I don't know if I would do it, but not telling him and pretending that the others didn't want him is stupid. I would also abandon Chuck if I found out the way he did as well. Jimmy talks to the big boss lawyer firm guy about handing over the case to his firm, since Jimmy doesn't like his brother a lot right now. The guy isn't that bad actually. He didn't hire Jimmy only because Chuck asked him to. Anyway, they both kiss and make up. Jimmy is back to trying to get elderly clients.
God forbid your car breaks down, you have to walk 10 steps, you got a melanoma the size of a pineapple where your head used to be. So you ask why?
Why? If that's how I feel, why do I live here? Why?
He started acting weird and taking out his feelings on the bingo game he is hosting. Then he talks about pooping on a sunroof or something. I kind of zoned out when he started talking really fast. Jimmy goes to Chicago, where he used to be Slippin' Jimmy, a con man who used to rip people off all the time. He did this with the help of Marco. Now he's back, these many years later, for a mini vacation. They decided to scam a bunch of dudes while Jimmy is staying. But Jimmy slept with a woman, and he did that by lying, saying he was Kevin Costner. Oh dang, they do look alike. Jimmy is just the slightly less attractive version, but you know, no offense. Bob Odenkirk, Odenkirk, whatever, dude. Anywho, Jimmy and Marco talk about him being an actual lawyer and how he's going to leave. However, Marco wants to do one last con man job. Jimmy agrees and does his whole fake Rolex scam thing, having Marco fake being a drunk, passed out, and Jimmy bringing another guy over to take it, and that guy giving him cash for compensation, blah 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 blah. But the big twist is Marco kind of had a heart attack and died right in front of Jimmy doing this. Chuck is doing okay. He's being watched by a nice guy named Ernie, who, you know, he looks like an Ernie. Jimmy is back in town now. He tells Mike that he doesn't want to do the right thing anymore, so Slippin' Jimmy's back, baby. Great episode. That death was not expected at all. He did cough a few times, but I just thought he had like a smoking problem or something. Anyway, I like how Jimmy is going back to his roots because that's gonna put him in hot water for sure. I'm pretty sure next season or so is when he gets his stage name as Saul Goodman. There were no problems I had with this episode. The acting was good, the visuals, the story were nice and entertaining. Now for my usual overall review of this season. This was great. Honestly, I thought it was going to be okay or like mid or overly serious like Ozark. However, that is not the case. The humor and thrilling elements were well balanced and honestly better handled than Breaking Bad. That might also be because I don't relate to Walter White's family and their whole dynamic. Like I said earlier, with Jimmy, I can relate more being down on my luck or I should try to be a better person and all that. This and also having a great supporting cast of characters like Chuck, Kim, Scorpion, and my goat, Tuco. They fleshed out who Jimmy was as a person. Kim and Chuck showing his kind of kinder side and all that. And Scorpion and Tuco showing that there's still a little bit of Slippin' Jimmy left. Also, you know, at the end of the episode when he was Slippin' Jimmy. I also liked how as Jimmy was becoming more successful, his life would suck more. And there would be a mini win and it would all come crashing down right after. It almost like it's karma for every bad thing he's done. My last positive point is about Mike. He's just so cool. I honestly don't know the actor from anything else but Breaking Bad. He has this like Sung Jin-woo aura about him. Anyway, now for the cons. The pacing in the beginning kind of felt bad. It felt slow for the first few episodes, and then in the middle, it started to go faster in a good way. I also wasn't the biggest fan of Chuck's made-up condition. It dragged on, and I didn't care. He got better and showed no sign of struggle for like most of the time. If he became more and more unstable or insane or something like that, I would have found it more compelling, but it felt like I was zoning out every time he was on screen. The season ending on a cliffhanger isn't the best as well, because I thought I was gonna tell a more complete story with my opinion and edits and all that thrown together. However, it suddenly just ended. I didn't even realize it was the last episode until I saw start season 2 now screen. So I don't know, it just ended. Overall, very solid and not as overrated as I thought it was gonna be, since this and Breaking Bad has been glazed on by anyone who owns a bong. Anyway, bye bye now.